Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the way we captured the court is that we won elections and we picked people consistent with the philosophy we ran on. And our friends on the left are spending money, try to shape the court. And at the end of the day, we all have to make a decision as a member of the Senate what's best for the country and the court. Our views will be different, but let's see if we can find some common ground here. How many of you support the idea that a justice of the Supreme Court should be more like Congress in terms of reporting trips, have limitations on what you can take from the private sector? Raise your hand. If you oppose that, raise your hand. Why would you oppose that? Jennifer?
Well, I just don't, I think your question was posed like members of Congress, and so I think just the court is not a political institution, and so doesn't.
It's a public institution.
It is a public institution. I think that the current rules that are in place have been operating adequately for the justices' report their travel rules already and gifts that they receive, and are doing their best, I think, across the board to try to apply the rule of law
I'm not
fairly.
casting dispersions on the court, but nobody can send me to Europe for a month, pay my bills, and have me teach a course.
Well, I think the rules that are in place currently have been operating to require the justices to report many of those things.
Well, it's one thing to report it. It's another thing. Is that Mr. Dupree, is that a good thing? To have a private group be able to send a justice to the Supreme Court for 2 months in Europe?
Well,
I
guess a few thoughts, Senator. I guess the first thing is I think it's a good thing when justices are invited to give speeches, to teach law school courses. I think that...
Yeah, we're invited to give speeches, but nobody can put me up for 2 months in Italy.
So I'm answering the portion of your question, is it a good thing that Supreme Court justices and other judges go out, share their views before audiences, some public, some private, some academic? As a general matter, yes, I think it is a good thing.
But as to my specific example of a private organization basically paying for weeks abroad.
Well, if I guess I don't have a problem with the current system. My view, to Professor Mascott's point, is I think our...
Well, I do. Okay, that's fair enough. That's why you're here. I have a serious problem with the current system.
I think that our justices are, without exception, persons of high integrity.
I'm not saying they're not. I feel that way about my colleagues, but because it's a public confidence thing, I think there is bipartisan support, Mr. Chairman, to rein in sort of how the court operates to make it more transparent to the public. But this bill goes well beyond that. So I share your concerns about where this bill is headed. I make this point that there is bipartisan support for controlling sort of the interaction of the court and the private sector to make it more transparent, to make sure that there's no appearance of impropriety, and count me in for that. And very briefly here, what happened to the court, how many of you believe that leaking the draft opinion was bad for the court? Okay, we all agree. And the reason it's bad for the court is going to be hard in the future to trust each other, to form consensus, to share ideas, to build consensus, and to get votes for a particular position. So I think this is a giant step back for the rule of law. How many of you believe that Justice Roberts should be in charge in the investigation? Yeah, me too, right? There's some effort by folks to basically reach out and take over the investigation. Let's let it happen in-house, and we'll see what he finds, and as a nation we'll figure out what to do. So this is a bad day for the rule of law, and I don't know who did it. Your motives, I don't care what your motives were, you did a lot of damage to our country, and I don't know if we can repair this, but we'll try. So my hope is that this effort to regulate the court and make it more transparent and control interactions with the private sector will prevail. I hope the effort to expand the court because you don't like its makeup will fail. I hope the effort to change life tenure will fail. I hope the effort to abolish the Electoral College will fail. and all these attacks on the institutions to get outcomes will fail. As to Roe v. Wade, always thought it was a constitutional overreach. If the draft opinion holds, then each state will decide how to regulate abortion. Thank you for having this hearing, Mr. Chairman. In this bill, there is a pony.
You have long been a supporter of that pony, Senator Graham, and I appreciate it very much, and I look forward to continuing to work with you to accomplish those goals. I couldn't agree with you more that this interaction between justices and private sector special interests is an area that merits much, much effort. And to the point of this being a bad day for the court, I'm no fan of the leak, but I think the bad day for the court was primarily its apparent destruction unilaterally of a 50-year-old precedent on which Americans have come to rely, largely because they were picked to do just that. So that's, to me, the